Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lindsay, a member of the CK-12 team, and my colleague Carl and I will be running today's webinar, Adopting CK-12 Curriculum. We're so glad that you're joining us today. Before I introduce you to Carl and review some information about the CK-12 Certified Educator program, I'd like to go over a few logistics about the Zoom webinar platform to make sure everyone is comfortable using the different windows. Right now, you guys should see two different options on your Zoom screen. One that's for Q&A and one that's for chat. And chat is already really active this morning, so that's awesome. To try to explain the difference between these two windows, during today's presentation, whenever you have a question about CK-12, one that you want to make sure that our team answers, the panelists during a Q&A session, please type it in the Q&A window. We will be pausing after instruction and tackling that Q&A window. The chat window is a place for community conversation. Like you guys are already doing, we would love for you to introduce yourselves. If you're an educator, feel free to share where you live and the subject you teach. Just make sure in the chat window that you're sending any general posts to all panelists and attendees, not just the CK-12 or the panelists. During our session yesterday, this was something that we had to continually remind everybody of because we got a lot of great comments and suggestions you guys were trying to share with the community. But when you have it set to the default all panelists, the people in this room here at CK-12 are the only ones who can see it. So please select all panelists and attendees to make sure everybody can read your comments. Also, while we don't anticipate any technical issues during our broadcast, if you're having any trouble with your video or sound, let us know in the Q&A window and we'll try to help you troubleshoot that. So as most of you know, this webinar is part of our summer CK-12 Certified Educator program. What are the requirements and what does it actually mean to become a CK-12 Certified Educator? The first basic requirement is that successful completion of the program means registering for and attending a series of 7 sessions this summer. Of those 7 sessions, 2 are mandatory. What we call the Introduction to CK-12 session. Some of you were probably on one of those sessions yesterday. We ran 2 of those yesterday, and we're going to do 4 more this summer. That's a required session where you learn all about CK-12, who we are, our history, our philosophy of education, and a little more about the program. The other required session is the Maximizing Learning with CK-12, which is really designed to kind of bookend your experience and maybe go at the end of your sessions that you string together this summer. So to help you structure your sessions in a way that best fits your learning needs, we have established some training pathways, which I'm going to show you in just a second, that you can consider when you're registering. Whether you are on a set pathway or designing your own experience, you will master skills for customizing and delivering content. You're also going to receive certification at no cost and on your own schedule. We hope that you're going to advertise your participation in the CK-12 Certified Educator program with your professional network on your web pages, through social media. When you guys complete the program, we're going to give you that shiny new badge to help you make that statement. So I want to quickly review these pathways that we set up when you guys registered. And let me start by saying it doesn't really matter which pathway you choose. We just wanted to help people who maybe are new to CK-12 and trying to figure out if you want to be on a path that's maybe focused more on content and FlexBooks, or if you want to get more into our interactive content and work on groups and practice. So this content pathway with these different sessions, today's Adopting CK-12 curriculum fits into this content pathway. It's one of a sequence. Later on this afternoon, we're doing a FlexBook 101 session that'll then be followed later in the summer by advanced FlexBook editing. So the content pathway, we give you an idea of how to progress if you're looking at building FlexBooks and using some of our concepts. The second pathway is the intelligent pathway, including sessions on practice groups and seeing student progress. So the main difference for our suggestions here versus the content pathway is that there's less of a focus on FlexBooks and more of a focus on our intelligence system. And then we built a pathway to try to give you ideas of how you could mix and match sessions from both the content pathway and the intelligent pathway to build your own learning experience to meet your own learning goals. So if some of you are still needing to register for any additional sessions, you can do that at ck12.org/jumpstart. Some of you were trying to register yesterday. We got some emails and some feedback that there was a little bit of a glitch with our registration. This morning, everything's running smoothly. You guys can get on this page. You can sign up for more webinars if you would like. So do that at ck12.org/jumpstart. So if you have any additional questions about the Certified Educator program, feel free to type them in our Q&A window. And our team, in addition to me and Carl, we've got several other people here today. We've got Star answering some questions, Julie, Katie. We're all here to help you. But right now, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Carl, who's going to get you started with today's content.
And good morning, coming to you live from our offices here in Palo Alto, California. We're so glad that you've decided to spend a little time with us and find out more about CK-12. Thanks, Lindsay, and to all of you for joining us today. We love seeing yesterday the conversations that were happening during the webinars on Twitter, and we continue to tweet and chat today using the handle @CK12 Foundation. So, you're welcome to go spread the word there and let people know that you're participating in this webinar. Like Lindsay said this afternoon, we've got FlexBooks 101, and anybody can still join. All you have to do is go to the Jumpstart page and register for that, even if you've already registered for other ones. So use that handle there and spread the word that you're using CK-12 this summer with the goal of improving student learning. All right, so today, here's what we're going to be covering. The first thing is we're going to just do a little overview of CK-12 and reminding you that it's all about student learning. We've been around for 10 years, kind of one of the pillars of the OER movement. And I think really we are focused on helping you improve your student learning. Next, we'll talk about why choose CK-12. And one of the biggest points there is we have quality content. Digitally, it's easy to customize, localize, and of course, one of the main reasons that people like us is that there's no barrier of entry because it's free. Next up, we'll be helping you planning for adopting CK-12. We're going to try to help you figure out what are the things you need to do before you begin this process. And finally, we're going to do the steps to adopting CK-12. Well, you're going to figure out exactly what do you need to do so that you can have CK-12 ready to go for your students when they return. So that's kind of our overview for today. Our main goal is that by the end of the session, you'll understand how to adopt CK-12 curriculum. You'll also be coming up with the exact steps that you'll be taking to make that happen. Later in today's workshop, we're going to be welcoming our guest, Tim Holt, who's Executive Director of Blended Learning in El Paso, Texas. And he'll be chatting with me live and answering some questions that I have. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to speak with him and to ask questions also. So be ready for that. And Tim's been a great user. He's gotten a lot done down there in El Paso, and I think we all have a lot to learn from him. So let's talk a little bit about CK-12. As I said, kind of the thing I always say about CK-12, it's all about student learning. We want to improve student learning. We are a nonprofit, and more importantly than a nonprofit, we're non-revenue. We do not charge for anything that we do, whether it's our digital textbooks that we call FlexBooks, our interactives, our adaptive practice, these seminars. Everything we offer to the world is for free. And we think that's really important because in our mission, we identify that all students of the world should have the right to quality education and quality content. And through the great equalizer of the internet now, we're able to offer that. We were founded in 2007. Which is 10 years ago. And so this is a pretty special year for us that we've been around for 10 years, making a difference in education during that time. We are an open source collaborative. As I mentioned, I consider us one of the foundational pillars of the OER movement, and also more recently the Go Open movement, where a lot of districts and states are really choosing to move to a free kind of collaborative platform where they can share content with other schools in their state and other schools around the country and the world. We are concept-based learning, and we're going to talk more about that because that's an important key point that you need to think about when you're planning on adopting CK-12. And I'll just keep mentioning it. We are always free, and that is really important. We're never going to send you a bill at the end, but what we ask you to do is just use us and get your students and teachers signed up and using us to take full advantage of the myriad of resources available here at CK-12. So a lot of people ask, how is our content made? And I'll let you know that I was in the classroom for 17 years as a teacher, and then I went to work for a major publisher. And the way that the major publishers create content and get it to students is very similar to the way we do. We hire domain experts, subject matter experts who go in, and these are people who know their subjects, their branches of learning, and they create the content. And then our content is vetted by independent reviewers, making sure it's aligned to state and national standards. And the end result is that after 10 years, CK-12 can offer complete coverage for science and math in middle school and high school. And the exciting thing is now we're adding more and more for K-5. Our elementary students are finding more and more resources here. And a lot of that is being developed by districts that are using CK-12 as a platform and developing content and sharing it with the world through CK-12. So we think that's really exciting. It's kind of the vision of CK-12 implemented to the way that we want it to work. So content that you get on CK-12 is quality content, but more importantly, because it's customizable, you can then change the content so that it's best for your students, because nobody in the world knows their students better than the classroom teacher. And there's no publisher or content producer like CK-12 that can dictate exactly what each student needs. You're the professional in the classroom, and we really respect that. So as one of our partners, we think through the CK-12 platform, we can work together and get great content in the hands of your students. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the first 4 years of CK-12. When we started out a decade ago, you'll remember that there wasn't a lot of technology available in the classrooms. Maybe there were a couple computers off on the side, but very few classrooms 10 years ago were one-to-one. So CK-12 started out as a platform where people would come to us. They would use our FlexBooks, our digital textbooks. They would customize it, and many people would print them out at that point. So during our first 4 years, we developed some amazing FlexBooks that were replacements from the books that you could get through a publisher. Then what happened is we realized there was so much more to learning than just a textbook. So we moved into concept-based learning. And with concept-based learning, we offered a variety of modalities, different ways of learning. And one of these is our adaptive practice. And so with the practice now, the students answer questions, and based on their responses, our system can adapt to what they know and help fill in the gaps to what they don't know. So it might be a prerequisite that they don't know, or it might be a previous topic, or maybe it's simply this topic that they just need some more content. But because CK-12 has a bunch of robust quality content, in the moment while the students are answering questions, we can offer that content and help get them up to the concepts that they need to be succeeding on. So we want you to think about us now, not just as a digital textbook organization, but as an organization that is focused on improving student learning using concept-based learning. And that's today one of my biggest points that I want you to think about, because I think there's still a lot of people that came here today or came to our summer program of Jumpstart thinking, I'm going to make a digital textbook. And what we need you to do is we need you to think beyond that. We need you to think about student learning in general. How am I going to use CK-12 simulations and interactives and adaptive practice and potentially a FlexBook that I customize, along with all the other modalities available on CK-12 in order to improve my students' learning? So that's the challenge today, is think beyond the digital textbook. So I want to mention here, we talk about modalities, and I know a lot of you joined yesterday and did the introduction to CK-12's workshops, both at 9 a.m. yesterday, California time, and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I just want to briefly go over these because I think it's really an important part of what makes CK-12 unique. We have a variety of different modalities: our read lessons, our simulations, our Plex interactives, videos. I've mentioned our adaptive practice, and RWA stands for real world applications. And these are just some of the ways that we offer to students to learn it their way. Okay. So we're going to move on now and talk about why CK-12. Well, one of the reasons is that our platform provides students with the highest quality content available through customization and localization. We know that students all learn in different ways. So if we can offer a variety of modalities, multiple ways of learning, which touch on the different learning styles, and maybe in the moment, a student's in the mood to start with a video, then read a lesson, then do interactive. And then the next day, they want to start with a real world application and then move into other modalities. Like, it changes from moment to moment with each student. We can offer solutions that will help with this change in learning. So know that CK-12 is available on any device, from smartphone, Chromebook, tablet, laptop, desktop, or it can be printed. And there are still some districts that don't quite have technology yet that are still looking to a print solution. Another great thing about CK-12 is that all of our artifacts have a unique URL which can be shared. And so if you create a FlexBook, you can share it with your parents, and it's something they can follow along with their students' learning. And one of the biggest frustrations I hear, or as a parent myself, is when my son has a math class and they don't have a book, and I don't really know what's happening. So by using CK-12, teachers can share the URLs of anything they create or use with the parents, and the parents can be included. Other educators can see what's happening. And remember, the price is right. We offer everything for free. So another reason to think about CK-12 is we've done the heavy lifting for you. CK-12 content over the last 10 years has matured. We've updated it, and we're constantly updating it. And I always consider that to be the foundational basal content that you need to get started. We've done 80% of the heavy lifting, and then you come in and you add your own customization to it. You bring in localized issues, you bring up things from your own community. I know, like Dan Lawson, who's in Tullahoma, Tennessee, brings in things about the Grand Ole Opry that's part of his curriculum in history and social studies that is really important to their students. And up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, they bring in things into their science books that are about the area around where the students live. And this kind of customization is really important because not only does it help address some of the local state standards, but it also helps engage the students so that in the end, the content that the students are looking at is quality content that improves student learning. So if you can think today, we're going to do 80% of the heavy lifting. We've already done it. It's available on our site. You come in and you make some changes, localize, adapt to local and state standards. And what you end up with is quality content that is all about your students and will help them learn. So what we're going to do right now is here's a video from a district official in El Paso who talks about the innovation of CK-12. Let's hear from Karen Blaine, Chief Innovation Officer.
So I think with CK-12, the innovation comes into play not just in going from print to digital. You know, if we just had, here's a static page that's on your computer rather than in a textbook, I don't think there's anything truly innovative about that. But when that digital resource is customizable by the teacher, but also when that teacher can customize to a point where the learning can be personalized for the student. The student can take multiple paths, whether within that resource or in connected resources that are within the CK-12 arena. The different study guides and those types of things that a student can choose the personalization. A student can choose a path to their own learning, and a teacher can set up the conditions for that. And that's something we're moving toward in our district, is the active learning framework, where teachers are making the plan for the learning and facilitating the learning that is then owned by the students and driven by the students. So choices in path and pace and product and that sort of thing. So students set goals for their learning. The teachers set up the conditions for all the available resources, which is, 10 different kids in one class may take 10 different paths and approach the resources in CK-12 in 10 different ways. So having that highly customizable aspect as well as the adaptive piece of it, that takes a student to where they don't even realize they need to be is pretty genius.
Great. I'm sorry. I think we interrupted that video with a quick audio piece of what's happening here in the room. Really sorry about that. Right now, I want to pause for a Q&A. We've got quite a few questions. Again, we've been answering some of them as we've gone along, but a common question that, Carl, I'm going to have you field here first is that while CK-12 is a STEM company, is there an opportunity for people who want to create social studies or language arts books? How does that factor in on our site?
So what's happening now is we have so many partners and teachers and districts that want to create content that is outside the STEM area. So, an example, we'll be speaking with Tim in El Paso, and they've created economics and history and, many other subjects. So while CK-12 is not going to be creating the foundational content for other subjects the way we have for math and science, we are going to go and welcome our partners to come in and do this work on the platform and share it with others. And we're going to see exactly what EPISD has done in just a few minutes.
Great. Another question is about, can this content be used in a two-year college? I teach largely developmental math, and I think we've got some exciting updates about that community college FlexBooks.
Yeah, so one of the exciting things that is coming out in the fall is we have developed 3 books for the community college students. And we have an algebra book and a pre-calculus book that are both coming out that were written by college level professors and have gone through the same quality process of developing content that all of our other CK-12 has done. Additionally, we have an amazing human biology book that is going to be available for community colleges to use too. So we have 3 community college products that are going to be coming out that I think are really going to be great.
Another question is, are there any specific features on CK-12 to support ESL students?
Well, the great thing about CK-12 is that at the bottom of each one of our pages, a student can choose to translate into any of the Google languages. And I believe Google has about 90 languages available. And so if you go, they can go down to the bottom of the page and you teach the students how to do this, and they can get anything translated that they're seeing there on the page using the Google Translate feature. Another thing that has happened is many of our math and science FlexBooks have been translated by native speakers into Spanish, and those already exist. If you look for FlexBooks, or if you type in the search bar Spanish books or libros en español, you will see a whole set of books specifically for our Spanish speakers that they might use in conjunction with your English materials that you use in the class.
Awesome. There's still some Q&A questions coming in. I think right now we're going to move on to the next section, which is planning for adopting CK-12, but please keep asking your questions and know that we are going to answer all of them.
Great. So Lindsay, we are going to get to, I think, what is some of the most exciting things covered today. Our final two steps are planning for adopting CK-12 and actually identifying the steps that'll be involved in adopting CK-12. And the first thing I want you to consider today is, are you going to be using a FlexBook as part of your core content or not? We have been talking about concept-based learning, and that to me is the requirement that when you're coming to CK-12 and you're really thinking about improving your students' learning, you're going to use concept-based learning. The use of a FlexBook is still optional though. Like, you might need a kind of one-size-fits-all linear pathway solution that guides most of your students through the content. And we're here to help you get that. But in my mind, it's not a requirement at this point. A lot of schools are going into the idea that they pull content for each lesson, and what they pull from CK-12 and how they do it differs depending on what they're learning. So just pause for a second and see, like, is one of your goals to create a FlexBook? If you do choose that, just know that we've got all those foundational books that you'll be looking for. So for example, in middle school, we have your typical earth science, life science, physical science, and even some biology concepts can be used in middle school. And then of course we have grade 6, 7, and 8 math. And if you're going to a more integrated approach through like NGSS or Common Core, it is really easy to quickly reorder the scope and sequence of those books so that they're in a more integrated fashion. That's a very simple thing to do on CK-12. In high school, of course, we've got biology, physics, chemistry, and earth science in science, and then your traditional Algebra 1 geometry, Algebra 2 pre-calc, and calc. And once again, if you want a more integrated approach, it is not very difficult on CK-12 to kind of reformat these books so that the concepts come up in a more integrated fashion, which is one of the options available in NGSS and Common Core. The nice thing is, once you find a book in CK-12, there's always the option on the left-hand side to customize it. And once you customize it, you're going to see how easy it is to reorder it, and you're given options here to edit it, reorder it, delete it. You really can make it your own so that it exactly matches the scope and sequence that you're used to. One of the other places that you can start looking for FlexBooks that you might use as the basis of what you're doing is on our schools page at ck12.org/schools. And you go there and you can go to your state and you can see what other books have been created. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go live to my screen now, and we're going to see exactly how to do this. Okay. All right. So I think you're seeing my screen here. Nope. All right. Let's go here. Okay. Let me just close this here. Okay, so if on the first page, on the home page of CK-12, we're going to click the schools button here, or you can simply type in ck12.org/schools. And because our special guest is coming up soon, we're going to go to Texas, because I know he's from Texas. And then I'm going to go down to El Paso. And there he is. All right, so I'm going to go into El Paso, and you can see these are all the books that CK-12, that El Paso has through CK-12. And there are so many of them, including, as I said, topics like AP Government, AP US History, AP European History. So the nice thing is that they have so many there, and you can use any of these books, and you can just go in and you can click customize, and they are yours today. And you know, everybody down there has allowed them to be shared and used by other people. Okay. All right. So let's go back here, talking more about the planning. So the next thing I want you to do is to think about how will you address customization, localization, and standards alignment. So when you put your content curriculum team together, you need to kind of decide ahead of time, how deep do you want to dive? How much customization do you want to put into your books? Do you want to take the CK-12 content as much as possible, or do you want to go in and really change the content or identify which standards from your state are addressed in each lesson, etc.? So I think that's an important question to ask. Next, what are the milestones for your adoption? Maybe start backwards from your delivery dates, and then think about what professional development will your team need in adopting CK-12. So not only do you want to, for example, share your book with them, but you also want to talk about the whole process of getting all their students on CK-12, creating assignments, using all the many features of CK-12 so that your students can improve their learning. Because this, we know with teachers, this doesn't just magically happen. It all takes time. So professional development is really, really important. And, you know, even to introduce them to our simulations or our interactives, you know, it's great that they see demos of them first and then really have some time to think about how to incorporate them in the content that you give them through the district. So we're next going to watch another video, and we're going to see that learning is modernized with the adoption of CK-12, as Mick Shuren, a principal in Tennessee, discovers.
I think it's obviously the future for education, and I think that CK-12 is only going to allow us to help to personalize and blend learning, which is the direction that our education program needs to head, not just Tullahoma City Schools, but the nation as a whole. We need to offer what the kids need. We need to offer directly what the kids need, in addition to the adults as well. So if we're not personalizing it, personalizing it using technology, then we're falling behind. And CK-12, it's one of those tools that helps us move forward.
That's great. So just in review, we want you to think about how will you be using a FlexBook as part of your core part of your content? How will you address customization, localization, and standards alignment? And what are the milestones of your adoption? And you'll be thinking about these as part of the homework assignment that will be for today's lesson. You'll have to kind of expand your thoughts on these. Okay. And now the final part is obviously the steps. Oh, before we do that, we have question and answer. Lindsay's waving at me. So, oh, let's do a poll. Okay, let's do the poll first. So the poll is going to come up. And at this point, I'd love you to respond. Are you thinking about using a FlexBook as part of the content you plan on offering your students? So go ahead and answer that. We'll give you a few minutes, and then we'll share the results. So we see that there are answers coming in. That's great. So once again, make sure you've answered either yes, I'm thinking of using a FlexBook, no, I'm not, or undecided. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and close it out. And you can see a large percentage of you, 84% of you have committed to the idea of still using a FlexBook, and CK-12 is here to support you and make that happen. The only thing I want to say is we want you at the same time to be thinking about how you're going to integrate the concept-based learning into your idea of making a FlexBook to really maximize student learning.
Okay, Carl, let's pause here for a second and give people a chance to ask more questions in our Q&A window. One that's waiting for you is some clarification on what does level mean. This user says, I see you have 2 BioFlex books. Is one more for honors for high school? So do you want to explain what we mean by levels?
Yeah, a lot of CK-12's content is offered at the at-grade level. And then it's also, much of the content's at a basic level or an advanced or honors level. So indeed, you're going to see that a lot of our FlexBooks even have been called honors or basic, etc. So we have tried to change the Lexile level so that it's easier for the basic and a little more advanced for the honors. Plus some of the concepts and the approaches are going to be different based on that leveling. So if you go to the concept page of any concept, you'll have the option of looking at content for all levels or any of the 3 levels there's any content available for.
Okay, keep the questions coming, please, in the Q&A window. And remember that we are going to have Tim Holt joining us here shortly. And he has a lot of experience in this adoption process and getting EPISD rolling with all of their books. So also type some questions that you might have for him. But for now, we're going to go back to steps for adopting CK-12.
All right, so this is kind of the meat of what we're doing today. It's really to help you think about how are you going to adopt CK-12 in your classroom, at your school, in your district, in your state. So the first thing we're going to do is talking about creating your FlexBook and how you choose content from those concept pages. Then I need you to think about how you're going to offer professional development for everybody using CK-12 at your school or in your district. And then next, we're going to talk about getting all your teachers and students onto the website and logged in and using CK-12 to the maximum ability. And then we're going to talk about throughout the year what you're going to do to continue the support of your students and teachers to really make the most of CK-12. So 84% of you said you're creating a FlexBook. Here are some steps that I need you to think about when doing this. You need to form your curriculum teams. Think about who you're going to involve in that, whether that's teachers that are pioneer teachers, like quality curriculum people that you then pair with people from the district level, like your math and science and other branch kind of supervisors, or the curriculum people within your district. And I would even think about involving some technology people from your technology department with this team to make sure that the rollout of this is simple and successful. Next, you're going to have one person head each book for the customization for your school. And they're going to be the ones that break apart the work and assign work to different people on the team and then kind of collect it and formalize it and publish it at the end. As we talked about, one of the best ways to do this work is to break up the work by chapter. So maybe 1 or 2 people share the work of customizing a chapter. They all work under the same credentials. And I know Lindsay in FlexBook 101 and Katie later in advanced editing of FlexBooks are going to talk more about this. But the idea is that we offer limited collaboration here on CK-12, but there are ways for you and your team to successfully customize a book. It is really important for you to think about how you're going to incorporate other modalities from CK-12 into your book. So it might be just a link to a concept page that matches the concept that's being taught in that lesson. But you can connect it to adaptive practice, interactive videos, and real-world applications. And these are all things that you can choose to actually put as part of your lesson. And then finally, you're going to get feedback from pilot teachers. Who's going to be using this book the first time out? Give them the book ahead of time and allow them to kind of give you feedback before you kind of publish it for everybody that's going to be using it. Okay.
Carl, let's stop for a couple of questions here. One user asks, what if you're experimenting this year and don't have access to a full curriculum team? What does this look like if you're an individual user?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's where a lot of our users are at. And, I have a teacher from, a school just from down the street that was talking about that the other day. And think about this as like tinkering with a car. You're going to go ahead and customize a book. And maybe in the beginning, you're going to just change the order of things, but you're going to leave all the content that's in the CK-12 book alone. And then throughout the year, you're going to continue to add in maybe videos. I flip my classroom. I'm going to add in my flipped classroom videos, or these great activities that I enjoy teaching in my class that work really well with my students. So I can do that on my own. And then maybe at the end of this year, I might choose to show it to the other teachers in my department or even with the other high school down the street.
Okay, another question while we're still on this topic is about sharing credentials. Somebody wants a little clarification on what that means to share credentials.
Sure. So the idea there is the book will live in one account. Okay, so we suggest, for example, if I'm creating a new pre-calculus book here, I might create the Carl District pre-calculus book, and I create an account, and that book lives in my account. And then I share with the other authors that are going to be working on it the same credentials. So maybe Lindsay and Andrew are working on chapter 1, and we have Julie and Star working on chapter 2. And it's fine that you guys work on separate chapters at the same time, as long as nobody's really kind of in the same lesson or the same chapter simultaneously. So we don't offer the amount of collaboration, for example, that Google Docs offers, but we can share with you the idea that you can have different people working on the same book, and then the one person who's in charge of it that I talked about it is the one that in the end will finalize and publish. All right, let's continue on, and I want you to start thinking about professional development, because this is an important part of being successful with CK-12. So you're going to show whoever's using the CK-12 kind of all the CK-12 content that's available and how to customize it. If you've created a FlexBook, this would be the time that you would share the FlexBook with them, and then you would encourage them take the, let's say, a district level book that the team has created, and each teacher can customize the district level textbook. So for example, in El Paso, there might be a really great geometry book that the district has made that's aligned to the Texas TEKS, but then each teacher can take the El Paso geometry book and continue customizing it. Probably not deleting anything from it, but adding in things that personalize their learning. All right, next, think about using the CK-12 concept pages to continue the learning. The concept pages are really the place where students can learn it their way. Teach your teachers and students how to use the adaptive practice assignments so that they can go in and fill in gaps. They can they can work on the learning that they've just done, and they can make sure that they've reached proficiency. And finally, getting all your teachers and students logged into the CK-12 website. They can sign in with a Google address, with Facebook, but also with a lot of LMSs like Clever, Canvas, Schoology, It's Learning. The list is very long, and if you click on our main homepage at the bottom, you can see who our partners are. And then teachers can get their students signed up in classes, and indeed, the whole system begins to work then. All right, finally, continued support throughout the year. The idea here is that once the year has begun, you're going to need to kind of check in with your people using CK-12 with some follow-up professional development. How's it going using CK-12? What are some best practices? Where are the struggles? And then we have the CK-12 through our website offers our cafe forums, which are a great place for your teachers to discuss with other teachers about using CK-12, and that's called Jumpstart for Educators. Then additionally, we have math and science forums for students where they can pose questions, and teachers and retired people and other students will answer their questions. So they can do homework help, or we do a question of the week. There's lots of great opportunities to discuss math and science and other subjects. Finally, throughout the year, CK-12 will continue to offer webinars, and we will continue to support you in the work that you're doing and offering you ways to continue to learn new resources on CK-12. So we've just kind of given you an overview of the steps to adopting CK-12, and let's go ahead, Lindsay, and see what some of those questions are.
We've got several. I don't know if you can pull up your Q&A queue here, Carl, and let's see if we can kind of bucket some of these. A couple of easy ones is, will this work for a homeschool teacher? Absolutely. We have a lot of homeschool teachers who are using our resources with students, which is awesome. We've got some questions about our concepts and some of the modalities and what the different ones mean. I don't know, what are you seeing here, Carl, that would be helpful to talk about?
Yeah, so the idea here with our concept pages is we've divided up learning of math and science into 5,000 concepts. And you go to the concept page, so if you type in, for example, osmosis into the CK-12 search bar, you're going to see that there's a variety of ways about learning osmosis. So we'll have a couple lessons at varying levels, but then we'll have some videos, we'll have some interactives, possibly some real-world applications, but the student or the teacher can choose which is the method that they want to learn first. And the idea is learn it however you want, and then use the adaptive practice to really check for understanding and fill in any gaps that exist. Okay. Let's see here. I think maybe we'll take a look at one more of these questions. You know what? So somebody's bringing up the fact that they're in a very small district and they're the only one planning on using the site. That's where I would suggest you talk to other teachers in the CAFE forum, and the forum's a great place to make connections. So if you're, for example, an algebra teacher and you're going to be making an algebra book with CK-12 content in it, you might post on the Jumpstart forum exactly what you're doing so that other students, other teachers in your state can match up with you and maybe use the content that's already aligned to your state standards, et cetera. So use the CK-12 website in order to do that kind of work. So I think at this point, we are going to move on, and we're going to welcome our special guest star and a good friend of CK-12, Tim Holt, who's the Executive Director of Blended Learning in El Paso, Texas. So Tim, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yay.
Well, Tim, I think we're going to start out by just saying thanks for meeting with us today. I know that you and I have met up in various places at Go Open conferences, et cetera, and I know you speak well of CK-12. So let's go back to the very beginning and let's find out, how did you get started with CK-12?
I was at the Texas Computer Education Association conference in 2012. And I like to go around these conferences and go to booths in the exhibition hall that people are kind of just walking by and avoiding, because everybody goes to the Pearson booth and everybody goes to the Microsoft booth, but these little tiny booths that have something that nobody's heard of before, I like it. Often those are the most interesting to me. And so one of those booths was CK-12, and there was a young lady, young woman sitting there named Ope, and I went over to her and I started asking her, what the heck is CK-12? What's that all about? And she started telling me, and it just fascinated me that there was free content out there. I had never heard of such a thing before. Free? What is this? You know, it's like you look across this whole exhibit hall at this huge conference and it's like everything costs something. And so I was just fascinated that here was somebody giving away something for free. And
right, and that first year, what did you guys end up doing with CK-12?
Well, that first year, actually, I recorded that video, I put it up on my YouTube channel, and I kind of forgot about it. I was like, okay. And then a couple of years later, we got a new superintendent here in El Paso, and he called me into his office, the very first meeting I ever had with him, and he said, why do we buy textbooks? That's great. That was the first question, and I had the absolute worst answer that anyone could possibly have. My answer was because we always bought textbooks. That's it. And he's kind of cutting edge, and he goes, "Well, I don't think we need to buy textbooks anymore because information is out there. Information's free. Why are we paying for information?" And so he goes, "Why don't you figure out a way to make our own textbooks?" And I remembered that little video that I had created with Ope a few years back. And I went back and I looked it up and I go, CK-12, they're the people that do it. And so I got a hold of you guys, and the rest is history, as we say. We started down that path in El Paso. The first year we got just, it was a science adoption year.
Right.
And our science teachers were all ready to go with the adopted textbook. And our superintendent kind of put the brakes on that, and he said, let's see if we can make our own. And we did. And so what was great about that was in Texas, I noticed that some of the people in the chat are from San Antonio and Houston. So I was like, okay, so in Texas, guys, they put all that money for textbooks and technology into one big pot. It's called the instructional materials allotment. And so you can buy textbooks, you can buy different kinds of stuff that has to do with instruction. But what happens is after you spend all the money on textbooks, you have very little money left in that instructional materials allotment. And so he was saying, well, if we don't buy textbooks, then we can use that money to buy laptops for our students. And that's
great. Great. And so I know the first summer, I think you did four science books for high school. And then kind of amazingly, you came back the next summer, and just kind of share with our audience out there what happened the next summer.
Well, what we did after that initial year with the science books, we said, our superintendent, we got all back together. We said, well, how's this going? And we let him know, what there were the good, the bad, the ugly, and the successes. And he said, well, let's just do this for everything from now on. Let's just all of our secondary textbooks. Let's just use CK-12 as the backbone, even if they don't have the content. We'll use their CK-12 editor as the backbone, and we'll build textbooks from scratch if they don't have them already in there. And so that's what we did. And so we built all of them for math, science, social studies, and we started on our English language arts as well.
That's great. Tim, I have a question coming in here from one of our users. What impact have you seen to your math TEAC score that correlate to kind of the CK-12 adoption?
Well, right at this second, I can't actually say that there's because we've only had the math books for a year.
Okay.
So the change takes place over a period of time. We've actually, for years now in the district, we've said that the textbook is not the curriculum. The textbook is a resource that you use with the curriculum. And so we don't use any textbook. Even if we'd gone out and purchased a textbook, that textbook would not have been the curriculum itself.
Sure.
So I will say that the teachers that are using the books, they have told us that the students are more engaged. They have told us the students like the textbooks a lot more, and so than the traditional textbook. And so that's the feedback we've gotten, at least for the first year in the math. And the science is completely different. The science, the teachers that are using them are really like them. Really, the teachers are more engaged, and the students as well.
Nice. Well, our audience today is really a bunch of people kind of fairly new to CK-12, and I'd love to hear from you. What advice do you have for them as they begin the journey of adopting CK-12? Because you're far down that road, but
we're far down the road, and we're not looking back. Actually, our superintendent, Mr. Cabrera, he got up at a meeting once, and he just said, "This train has left the station, and if you're not on the train, you need to go look somewhere else for employment." He goes, "This is what we're doing in EPISD. We're adopting this type of mentality and technology." So I think one of the things that you really have to be careful of for new adoptees is that you have to be very careful how you explain what you're doing, because some folks, they hear we're creating our own textbooks. And we found in EPISD, when we said that we're creating our own textbooks, we found that our teachers heard in their minds that they're going to have to write their own textbooks from scratch. And so it took us a while to get over that hump. No, you're not writing your own textbooks. You're actually using the textbooks, but you can modify the textbook if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. And so that was kind of, how in school districts, rumors just like boom, explode. Everybody was like, "Oh, we have to write our own textbook," and we were like, "No." So we had to put out a few fires there. Some other things that we found that was very interesting to us, you never know until it happens. One of the things that we found was that teachers are reluctant to try something that's free.
Yeah.
That was very, and when we started speaking to some, one of them said to me, he said, he goes, "What if somebody came up to you and said, here's a free car, you can have a free car? What would be the first thing in your mind? Your first thing in your mind would be, well, what's wrong with this car that you're giving it to me for free?" And so we had to step back a bit, and we'd have to say, okay, so we had to explain, just as you did at the beginning, how these textbooks are created. They weren't, just made in somebody's garage, I'm going to write a math book tonight or something like that. They actually were written by experts in the field. And once we got that underway, so you have to say things very carefully, because people sometimes hear things that you're not actually saying.
Okay. And Tim, I'll even add to that. We have like a number of independent schools now that have more flexibility with budgeting, and they're still choosing to use CK-12 because of the reason that it's the highest quality content they can give their students, regardless of price. They can afford a $100 book, but they're choosing to CK-12 because they can customize it in a way that they think offers the best content.
Yeah.
Just a quick question from another user. They're in El Paso. How many tablets are you guys using, or are you guys only using laptops?
Okay, so at the secondary level, we saved so much money that first year that we had almost enough to go one-to-one laptops for all of our high school students. We had to go borrow a little bit, and not borrow, we had to take a little bit out of our big fund. I mean, they have some secret fund that they get money from. I don't know what it's called, but they had to take some out of that, but they added to that. And so we were not able to go one-to-one at our high school. So all of our high schools are one-to-one. Then all of our middle schools, that's what we're starting up next is our middle schools. What we're kind of doing is following the adoptions. Yeah. So as a textbook adoption comes up, we're saying, okay, instead of this middle school math adoption, we're not going to do this. We're going to start writing a middle school. We're going to start working on the middle school math book and materials. And so that's kind of what we're doing. And so now our middle schools are going one-to-one as well. So.
Great. Well, Tim, thanks so much. And can you stick around? We're going to have a few more questions here at the end, but we're going to wrap this up for the people that need to push off here at the hour mark. But we will continue to stay on and answer all the questions that you're bringing up in the chat and Q&A windows, because we want to make sure everyone gets their questions answered. But Tim, thanks again. You guys have been a great partner to us over the years, and we've really enjoyed seeing the work that you've done and just the progress that you've made. So.
Let me just throw this out. We are more than willing to help anybody down their pathway. If they're interested in trying it in their district, we've already helped about 10 districts get going on it. So we're more than willing to help y'all.
Thanks so much. All right, Tim, we'll talk with you in a few minutes with possibly some more questions.
Okay, I'm going to take back over the screen here. And I think I'm taking back over the screen here. And just to be conscious of time here, we always try to keep these webinars under an hour. I'm going to do just a little bit of wrap-up information, and then we do stay on at the end of all of our webinars for you guys who want to hear the additional questions that people may have. But to be conscious of your time, those of you who need to leave at the hour mark, you know, we always want you to be able to do that. So there is an assignment that goes with every webinar session that we do this summer. If your intent is to get the CK-12 Certified Educator status, we do need a record of your attendance on this webinar. So you're here, good job. We have a record that you guys attended. And then we need this assignment that accompanies it. And it's designed to take about 20 minutes or so. And we built things that are hopefully relevant to kind of get you started with the information that was presented today. There are a couple different ways to get to this assignment. And I'm not sure, those of you who joined us yesterday, we probably didn't do a good enough job of getting you to this assignment. But we create a tiny URL just for ease, so you guys don't have to type in a ton of letters. But our tiny URL usually uses CEP, which is Certified Educator Program 17. And this specific assignment is CEP 17 Adopt. So it's going to be put out in the chat window. So if you have a second, you might want to go ahead and write that down. And that's the assignment that you need to complete. So hopefully everybody's got that. The place where you can find this assignment is on the ck12.org/certified2017 page. So we've built this so that the registration page is separate from our content from the summer. So now that you guys are registered and you're into the program, you want to check out ck12.org/certified2017. And here we have resources for every individual session. So only one is showing here at the bottom of the screen, but when you press that plus symbol and expand the options, you're going to see an assignment link for each session that we've run there underneath that session description and information, and some other help resources to get you going. We're going to put the archived webinars. So we do record every webinar, and we're going to make them available to you. We ask for your guys' patience a little bit because of just the time it takes to download the video and upload the video and get it on the website. We aim for 24-hour turnaround time, and it may be quicker than that. But within a day, you're going to see the archived webinar appear at the bottom of this page, and you're going to receive an email from us that has a link to this page. We'll put in the specific assignment. So you guys who attended yesterday, here in the next hour or two, you're going to be getting the follow-up email from yesterday. So again, it's kind of that 24-hour period. That's just the logistics of how we're running this summer. I do want to reference that there are some upcoming sessions for you guys who are available today. Again, we're in California, so these are Pacific time. We're running FlexBooks 101 of actually how to get started with the editing and selecting of books. So, you know, this was adoption, you've bought in, you want to get going, join us this afternoon, or it's offered 3 more times this summer. Groups and Practice 101 is tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow afternoon. I think that's tomorrow morning, actually. So I might have these flipped. Tomorrow on our scheduling is Groups and Practice 101 and CK-12 Simulations and Plix Interactives. So again, continue to kind of diversify what you're learning this summer and join us for those. You can register at ck12.org/jumpstart. Carl mentioned earlier, our form is up and running, Jumpstart for Educators. You can find it at the top tab there. So check that out, join in on the conversation. And then one more piece that's super helpful for us is if you are compelled at the end of any webinar this summer to give us some feedback, tell us some things we did well, tell us some things that we could do better, this is the place to do it. This is the same link all summer long for any session you attend, CEP 2017 feedback. And we look at those every day and we try to make modifications based on what you guys are suggesting. This is a brand new program. This is day 2. So we really rely on your feedback to keep making improvements. So at this time, again, thank you. I want to make sure that you know that you're supported. We've received a lot of emails to support at ck12.org, and we're live people. We're here, we're reading them, we're replying, we answer our phones. You can also interact with us on the social media. We are at CK12 Foundation, or you can also hashtag us, and we're really excited that so many of you are choosing to spread the word about this program. So for you guys who need to leave us, this is your point of departure. Everybody else who wants to stay on, we're going to go back to Carl, and hopefully Tim is still there as well, and we're going to get back to Q&A. So as you guys have questions, we're here for you. We'll answer as many as we've got.
Well, we do have a question here, and it was who was put in charge of putting together the EPISD math books? Was it teachers that teach it or curriculum people? Can you talk a little bit of how that happened?
Okay, so in El Paso, we did the textbooks across curricular areas exactly the same way. What we did was we got teachers that were teaching the content to work on the books themselves. And we didn't just pick any teachers. You know, sometimes you just say, who wants to work on something? Well, we asked we have what's called instructional facilitators. And so they're very familiar with who are the teachers in their curricular area. And so we asked our facilitators to go out and actually pick the best teachers in those areas, and also to pick the teachers that had some cachet with their other teachers, their fellow teachers. They had the gravitas, I think is what it's called, so that when they go back to tell the teachers, here's what it is, they can say, look, we're the ones that put this together. They didn't write the book. What they did more was curate the material that's in the book.
Okay, that's great. And I think that's a model that is used in a lot of places. As I mentioned before, we know that not all teachers are curriculum creators. You know, that you can be a great teacher and not necessarily be a great curriculum creator. So it's important to choose, I always call them the pioneer teachers that really have those abilities to do those skills and bring in people from the district level too, like you guys have done. It's been a great model.
You know, something else that is important that I think that we didn't mention is that a good editor is needed, I think, for your content, especially if you're building a book from content that's not in CK-12, for instance, a social studies book or an English language arts book. A good editor is there. They can make sure that the content flows especially if they're going out and getting open education resources from different sites. They'll come in and make sure that the content flows from one chapter to the next, makes it sound like it's written by a single person and not by a committee of 50 people. And so
Sure.
editors are important.
Sure. Great, Tim. All right. Well, if you can hang around just a few more minutes, I think we have some general questions here that we'll handle from here, but thanks for everything.
Got it.
Carl, we've got some participants asking kind of about these landing pages. Do you mind sharing your screen and going back to, let's go to the registration page. Let's go to ck12.org/jumpstart. So we've got a couple of questions. ck12.org/jumpstart. This is the page that you guys probably all arrived at some point since you're in our webinar today. And for those of you who are wanting to sign up for additional webinar sessions, under that individual webinar sessions where that says register, go ahead and click on that. And below, you saw that this window popped up with all of the different sessions that we're offering this summer, and you're able to select a time that works for you. So if you wanted to join us today at 3 o'clock for advanced FlexBook editing, Carl, you can select that time. And you will see that you can go down to the bottom. Yeah, you can sign up for a bunch if you wanted to sign up for a bunch. And then you register for selected webinars. And it's going to pop up that box that you guys probably filled out before. I don't think you want to give all your personal information away, Carl, but you guys would fill that out, and then you would receive your registration confirmations. So if you have missed a session, if you missed yesterday's and you're like, oh, shoot, I meant to attend, but I need to sign up for a new one, you just go to the individual webinars, Introduction to CK-12, and you select a new time for you. So that is what's going on with our registration page. And again, to have a separate page to kind of keep this registration in our content, we now go to ck12.org/certified2017. And that's going to take you to our new page that we've been building out. ck12.org/certified2017. All right, so here we are, Jumpstart Your Teaching. You can see that the top 4 tabs, about CK-12, the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. Carl, go ahead and expand the office hours section. We mentioned this a lot in the introductory session, but not many time slots have been taken here. What we've done is our main content is Monday through Thursday, but Fridays we're taking a break and we're offering 30-minute time slots for users to sign up and join us, and you get members of the CK-12 team, and we can give you individual attention for 30 minutes and really get into the specifics of your school, your district, whatever your situation is that you're needing help with. So it's really simple to register. All you're going to do is you're going to click on one of these time slots and you're going to fill out your information, just your first name, last name, email, district, whatever you want to tell us. And if there's anything we should prepare prior to the office hour, you can tell us. And then when you confirm booking, we've got you on our schedule. What you're seeing right now, these are our times we're offering in Pacific time. I think the booking system will go ahead and show up in your local time when you log in. So we would love to start filling out more of these. Pick a green time slot and sign up, and we'll see you on a Friday. Carl, so that's office hours. So you can go ahead and close that office hours. And then if we scroll down, you've got session information and resources. So yesterday was our introduction to CK-12 session. So what you're usually going to find here is there's a list of all the times that we're offering the session, and then a couple of resources from our help center just in case you wanted to check some things out, and then our post-webinar assignment. So like I said, you've got a direct link to it that's a tiny URL, and then you can always find the assignments listed here. And then at the bottom of this page, you can see the archived webinars tab, and we're working with our web designer to to make this a much bigger section where you guys are actually gonna, kind of see the screenshots of the videos, so it's not as buried, because this is kind of easy to miss at the bottom of the page. But you can see that we've got links to our 9 a.m. session and our 3 p.m. session yesterday for Introduction to CK-12. Those videos are there. If you clicked on one of those, it would take you to our YouTube page, where we've got a lot of different videos available on YouTube. But here's the record of everything that happened yesterday. You guys can rewatch it. Again, you're able to miss one session. If you're hoping to get certified, we want you to attend 7 live. If you have a conflict and need to make one up, you're watching an archived webinar and doing the assignment that comes with it. Or if you just really enjoyed the webinar and you want to pass it on to a colleague, or if you want to use it during professional development at your own school, you can view the videos here. And like I said, in 24 hours, kind of within the webinar timeframe, we are going to send out emails to participants that have all these links again. But hopefully, as you guys progress through this program, you're going to get really comfortable with the difference between our registration page and how to use this kind of home base for the program.
Well, and I'm just going to add to that. One of our users in the Q&A window said, hello, you guys are fantastic. After watching this first seminar, I want to take them all. Can I? Or is it just the 7? Yes, please take them all. And the more you take, the more you're going to learn, and the more you're going to understand how to use CK-12 to improve your students' learning, which is really what we're all about here. Okay. One of the questions, Tim, somebody had a question about contacting you. So we did share your email address, if that's okay, in the question and answer window, because they want to find out more about how kind of EPISD chose their OER resources. So.
Oh, absolutely. We'll share anything we've got. We're like CK-12. Everything we've got is shareable. So.
Fantastic. All right. So let's run through and do some of the other questions. Is there a middle school math book for 7th grade that you know has been customized with many outside videos and resources? Well, what I would say here is the CK-12 book for has a, okay. All right, so we're going to now answer a question about middle school math, and it is the 7th grade. The question is there a book that has a lot of outside videos and resources? And what I'm going to say is that the CK-12 book that we have, and let's come here and let's go to 7th grade. I'm going to choose measurement, FlexBooks, and then this one here. So this is the CK-12 7th grade book, and we have curated some external videos and resources, but most of the things that you're going to find in our book have been made by us. And we're actually going and redoing some of the videos as part of our constant improving the quality of what we offer. So, you know, we are most in control of what we can offer, especially if we make it. So, you know, this is the book that I would really encourage you to go to in order to begin your work using math for grade 7. All right, there's another question here. In using CK-12, should teachers continue to use a notebook procedure, i.e. the interactive notebook? I'm not sure exactly what that means. Anybody?
I talked a lot about smart boards yesterday. Is that what we're talking about? Interactive boards?
Yeah, interactive. Yeah, I don't think it's an interactive board. Maybe, Ellen, if you can just expand on that question, we'd love to address it. And then we'll kind of look for final questions if you want to ask your final questions before we sign off here. So maybe we'll take this time to say thanks again to Tim from EPISD for taking time out today and kind of inspiring other teachers and districts to get started with CK-12. Today's been all about adopting CK-12, and I think as an adoption example, EPISD is leading the way of figuring out what is best for students. So Tim, thanks a lot, and we'll, I'm sure, talk to you soon.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Tim. Okay, there's a question here about how Google Translator works for the FlexBook. And so I'm going to go ahead and go to the bottom down here. And at the bottom, you're going to see a select the language. And so I'm going to select, let's select Chichewa, which is an African Bantu language that I happen to speak. And you can see the page is nicely written in Chichewa now. So probably more languages like that are more popular, like Hindi or Chinese or Spanish. But you can see you have not a choice of 90, I think they're up to these days, 90 different versions. And here we are in Espanol. And the table, the page gets instantly translated for your students. All right, let's go and ask, let's see here. Elliot's, so there's still questions about note-taking. And one of the things that I do kind of want to discuss here with you is that there is the option in CK-12 to do highlighting and annotations, etc. So you can see here we've got you know, we can do annotations where you can have the students use a special color of highlighter like green for the topic sentence and yellow, the way they would talk to the text if you were using, you know, a piece of paper in a printout. But the nice thing is that they're stored in their account and every student can have their own version. And they can also have annotations where they summarize a block of text. So, you know, those are great things that we offer through CK-12 that your students can use as kind of, you know, literacy, you know, aids and devices that can really help this be something special. All right, and I think we're about done here with no final questions. So I'm going to pop it back to Lindsay, who final things here. But other than that, it's been a great pleasure to be with you all today, and we look forward to seeing everything that you do on CK-12. We look forward to seeing you make a schools page and sharing your books with the world and really showing us how you're doing it at your school.
I think Carl just said it. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you on future sessions.